Hey guys, this is Mr. V, and this is APES Review Topic Video 4.2, Soil Formation and Erosion. So here we're talking about how soil forms, and the big important thing to remember here is that soil comes mainly from its parent material. That's the bedrock, right? That's the original rock that it actually came from. And then at that point, at some point, it starts to get weathered down mechanically, either through wind or through water, or sometimes biologically, okay? And as that weathers down, that soil will then begin to form into different layers. So here in this one, you see that there's a difference in the different layers and how soil begins to form. Mainly, it begins by looking on the left here, how soil breaks down. So it breaks down through water, through wind first. Then some organic material will start to come in and it'll start to biologically break it down as well. And then you'll start to see, so the bedrock on the bottom, then the sea horizon will form down there. Then you'll have kind of a mix of an A and a B horizon. And then finally, well-developed soils will have an A horizon up top and then an O horizon, which is that organic material up top. So that's an important thing to understand. And when we're talking about horizons, there are several factors that affect how that soil can form and make those horizons. So of course, the first one and probably the most important is going to be the parent material. So whether or not that rock is made of limestone, sandstone, uh, basalt, granite, whatever the case may be, that is going to be a big deal. And then from there, the climate of where that rock formed. So if it's a climate that has very dry weather with not a lot of water, that's going to play a big role in how that soil forms. If there's a lot of mountains or if it's flatland, that's going to play a big role on what layers form first and what layers form most distinctly. And then you're going to have the biological factors, which are things like bushes and roots and trees and grass, right? Think about a tree with a taproot. Taproot is going to be that kind where the root falls straight down and then spreads out. That may play a role into how that soil forms and breaks down. Or if it's not a taproot, if it spreads out, kind of like grass, as kind of a mesh netting, that might be more helpful in keeping that soil from erosion and things like that, right? And of course, the biggest factor with all these is going to be time, right? How long has that soil been there? Is it going to be able to form into the clear layers that we're going to be talking about shortly? And as you can see here, here are those layers. So you have the different soil horizons. And I hate to say to memorize things, but this is definitely one you have to memorize and know for the AP exam. And so, the top layer is going to be that O layer, that's the organic matter. Okay. Then the A layer is going to be right below that. That's going to be the surface horizon. That's going to be that top layer that doesn't have as much organic. The B horizon is going to be your subsoil. That's where a lot of the roots will go down into. Then you've got the substrata, which looks a little bit like the parent material. And then I would add even another layer below that C1. That would be the bedrock. That's the parent material itself. And then here you have soil erosion. So erosion can be natural or it can be anthropogenic. What that means is that soil erosion can happen on its own through rains or winds, and then we have anthropogenic, which means that it's caused by humans, okay, human factors. So if you're thinking about how that can happen, that could be through water, wind, or gravity. And then human factors can be through irrigation and crop management. So we didn't do very much of that around the Dust Bowl. And so you had these big giant storms, you had crops that failed because we did not do very good soil management. Okay. And so big human factors that might play a role in these would be deforestation, okay, because you've removed the trees and you're not going to have any areas for that grass to grow. You can have overgrazing, where you're going to have pesticides, where you're going to have animals break down and eat the different grasses and things that you would want to have. Then you can have pesticides and fertilizers, which will change the chemistry of the soil, make it lighter or heavier, and that'll play a big role there. And then of course, tillage is going to be whether or not you can actually break through the soil to allow the roots to aerate and stuff like that. That's going to play a huge role. And ultimately, it's irrigation, okay? Because all those other ones are going to play a big role. But then if you water it too much, that water will wash away the top layers of soil, and that can play a big role as well. Okay, so here's some different types of erosions. You can have splash erosion, where the water splashes down, so that can happen from rain. And then you have the different types. You can have sheet erosion, where that's literally where the top layer can end up, kind of flowing there, and it will just wash that whole layer off. Okay? And then you can have rill erosion, where these little tiny cracks and crevices form in the soil, and that can get even worse with gully erosion. That's where those get really big. Then you can also have stream bank erosion, where if you've got a stream or a river and there's not enough trees or roots holding down that edge, that bank will just fall in anytime there's water added to that area. So those are different types of ways you can have erosion. And again, these can all be exacerbated or made worse with irrigation practices. So here's a list of some other resources. Hopefully you can check some of that out. And hopefully this was helpful as well. Thank you.